following presentations. Speaking of the next speaker, her story actually is a very compelling one, as Deep Tech Atelier has actually brought her back to Latvia. She's a graduate of Riga Technical University and has been living and working in the United States for a while now, so if I may, welcome home. Her mission is to help startups get into the United States market, so let's see what lessons we can learn from her. She's the Director of Business Incubation and Acceleration Programs at the University City Science Center in Philadelphia. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Karina Sotnik.
Thank you, Latvia, for putting this event. Paldies, Latvia. Such a fantastic stage and speakers. Well, I'm here today to talk to you about 3 lessons that I've learned about academic innovation since I've been working with leading universities in the United States and helping them start companies. So let me take you a little bit through the history. Before 1980s, in the United States, any university that used government grants did not have opportunity to commercialize their own inventions. It was up to the government to do it. Now, with all due respect, we all know that governments actually don't do a really good job at commercialization. So in 1980, the Bayh-Dole Act was put together to let universities keep their intellectual property and have rights to exclusively license it to the industry. And that's how universities got into the tech transfer business. So now every major university in the United States and around the world has the tech transfer unit that is tasked with putting their innovation into the industry. However, how do you start companies out of the universities? So let me take you on that journey. So this is a very traditional method of basically what the innovation is going through in any university right now around the world. The inventor comes up with a discovery. Very important element is to disclose that discovery to tech transfer office so that they can assess it and decide if there is something there that needs protection. So all of you researchers and inventors, before you go and speak at the conferences like this, make sure that your invention is protected. Then it's up to university to decide if they want to put protection on what kind, patents, copyrights, trademarks. And after that, it's sort of out of the inventor's hands and up to the university how they want to package it, how they want to market it, how they want to find the potential industry to license it to, and hope for commercial success and the financial return. So that's the traditional model. It works, but it doesn't work great, and we see more and more industry pushing back on universities to continue with research and development, and industries being more and more interested in actually acquiring companies, startups, that can already prove that this invention works in the marketplace. So how do you get startups out of the university? I was lucky enough to work at the University of Pennsylvania. Some of you might know it as the place for Wharton School of Business, but the university actually has 11 different schools: medical school, engineering school, school of design, and so forth. So it has really great fertile grounds for innovation. So University of Pennsylvania basically engineered a process of getting innovation into a startup and getting that startup to be successful. Let me walk you through 6 steps that they engineered. Now it's like a conveyor that helps do it. And I will focus on the most important out of the 6 steps. So number 1 is the inventor comes to the unit that is university put together specifically to help faculty, researchers, graduate students to start companies. And the number 1 requirement is that they're enthusiastic about starting a company. If the researcher is not interested, the company is doomed from the beginning. But if there is a level of enthusiasm, yes, we want to try to start a company, we will take it. So the first step is they sign the agreement that they want to start a company. Second step is university actually files legal paperwork and starts that company. It's cheap and easy in the United States. It's cheap and easy in Latvia as well. So you can start a company. At this point, it's still a paper company. It's just a legal entity. This unit will help you come up with the right name for the company. Always important, because you have to check if it's available. You need to make sure that it's the right sort of ring to it. It will create a basic website. And then the most important step that university takes is to find the business entrepreneur to run this company. Now, the inventor might think that they are entrepreneurial enough. Let me tell you, they're not. You need that business person to take the invention out of the lab, out of the minds of the researcher, and lead it to a success. Now, how do we do it? Well, we interviewed a lot of people. We have a database of people that might be potentially good entrepreneurs. I wish I had a Tinder that matches entrepreneurs with researchers, and I can just swipe. I don't. So a lot of interviews, a lot of conversations. It is like a marriage bureau. It has to match. The chemistry has to be there between the researcher and that entrepreneur. But if it's there, then it really sparks. So if you find the right entrepreneur, the task of that entrepreneur is to put together a first pitch, first business plan. No one reads business plans these days, but a 15-slide deck that will look into market size, will look into competition. You know, a good entrepreneur can say, you know, there's 7 ways I can lead this company to, but I'm choosing this one, and here is why. That's the sign of a really good entrepreneur. And so then, after the entrepreneur is in place, the company is already formed, then the university can help put together sort of wraparound services. You need legal advice, we have it for you. You need accounting, we have it for you. You need business insurance, we have it for you. So all of this really helps to get this fledgling little company off to the ground. The next task for that entrepreneur is to raise funds. The entrepreneur is hungry. University doesn't have a budget to pay that entrepreneur, so it's up to that person, he or she, to raise funds so that they can pay themselves and make the company successful. So university can help by introducing different funding sources, but it's up to the team and up to the entrepreneur to actually get it. And then once the funding is there, the unit can help with setting up the operations, finding the incubation space, and so on. So that's the process that worked really well for the last 10 years. This slide that illustrates a typical milestones for a company, especially if it's in life sciences or medical devices, that the company needs to get through in order to be successful. Now, notice on this busy slide, the most important piece comes very early. Finding that business advice, finding that business lead, finding that business entrepreneur becomes crucial before you can raise money, get through any regulatory, and go through other hurdles that a lot of companies go through. So to me, this is like one of the most important steps. As I said, CEO works for the equity, and it's milestoned. The first milestone is put us a pitch deck. Next one is go fundraise. Next one could be get it through the regulatory approval, and then you're fully vested. So that's the way to structure it. As I mentioned, in the last 10 years, this unit, particularly at the University of Pennsylvania, started over 180 companies. They currently have 68 companies in their portfolio. They had 5 exits, which is like pretty good. Just in the COVID year of 2020, they started 7 new companies. Usually it's about 20 per year, but COVID. And they got about over $300 in follow-up funding for their companies. So the lesson here is for the university, get out of your walls. Bring people that needs to be helping your company. Bring in external entrepreneurs. Bring in external help in law, in accounting, in business insurance, in everything that the company might need. So that's lesson number 1. I don't see my slides, but I hope you do. Oh, here they are. So I was lucky enough, my company, World Upstart, was lucky enough to be tasked to help university build accelerator for mobile technologies. So once this underlying sort of layer of conveyor, how to start companies, is there, then you can build different accelerators on top of it. So when I lived in Los Angeles, the running joke was that every bus driver has an idea for a movie script. Well, here I thought everyone has an idea for a mobile app, right? So how do we get these ideas from the university and uncover this one gem, one brilliant idea that might be in the minds of professors, students, staff members, hugely underrepresented potential idea-making audience. So we said, we want to collect ideas from everyone at the university, the lawyers, the doctors, professors, students, even the president. And we said, please let us collect these ideas. And then I thought, well, who would be the better person to evaluate all these ideas and decide if there is there? If there is actually a great idea for potential business. And I decided that the best people to do it are investors. So I approached investors and I said, we're collecting ideas from this university. Can you please evaluate and tell me, is this a business? Could it be fundable? And is it scalable? And so we made the application very, very simple. 2 tweets, basically. You need to tell us which problem you're solving. You need to tell us what is the solution, who is going to use it, and who is going to pay for it. That's it. So we created a funnel. Every year, we would collect about 300, 400 ideas. We will send those ideas to 25 investors across the United States in different industries. Life science, medtech, robotics, digital health, you name it. And we said, look at those 400 ideas and rate them from 1 to 9. Then I said, OK, so we have ideas. We have people who can evaluate these ideas. But we need technical resource to build a prototype. So I approached 5 software development companies. And I said, you're getting ideas from excellent university. 25 VCs think that there is something there. Can you pick 1 each and build me a free prototype? So to my astonishment, those companies said, yes, we would love to. And I said, once the company is formed and the funding is there, you will be the company of choice to build the entire product. So now I had ideas from the university, investors that says there's something there with this idea. I had 5 software developers. And so then we have this underlying process where we can find a business person to run a company, we can form the company, and just go through the motions. So that's how the accelerator worked. We started with 400 ideas. We came down to 10. Out of 10, our 5 software development companies chose 1 each, and that's how we started 5 companies each year. It went on an academic calendar. So from September to April. In April, the newly formed companies pitched to investors. They showed the prototypes, and 1 or 2 each year will get funded. So again, this is how the process worked. You sort of pieces of the puzzle that you put together. Ideas, investment partner, development partner, entrepreneur, and that's how the accelerator worked. In 5 years, we started 19 companies. 7 of them got funded. This is the example of all the partners that partnered with us, from investors to developers. These are some fun facts. Now, this is important. 1 year, we had 9 different people submitting the same idea. Lousy idea, how to order food out of the food trucks. This idea didn't progress to top 10, but it was funny to see how, mostly students are thinking the same way, trying to solve their little tiny problems. 1 year, we had 1 person submitting 32 ideas, all of them pretty bad. None of them made it to top 10. We had, as I mentioned, 7 companies that received funding. 42 people that submitted their ideas were staff members. Now, who are the staff? These are your secretaries, your directors, your lawyers, people that work at the university that usually don't have a voice. Well, here they had a voice, and one of the staff members actually progressed to top 5 and got his company funded. So I cannot tell you how many bad ideas were submitted, mostly from students, no offense. A lot of dating and drinking apps, ordering drinks at the bar. So here's an interesting statistics for you. The entire process of getting ideas rated by the investors and then getting those ideas to be chosen by development partners was a blind process, and that's important. So the investors didn't know if the professor or a lawyer or a student submitted this idea. They didn't know if it came out of medical school or school of design, and so they only evaluated it on the merit of the idea itself. Every year, about 10 to 11% of the ideas submitted came out of the faculty, professors, or doctors, or nurses at the university hospital. And yet, every year, year after year, 4 out of 5 winning ideas came from those 11%, from faculty, from professionals. Why? Because, in my view, grown-ups solve real grown-up problems. As our keynote speaker said this morning, there are a billion people today that live in poverty. Who cares about the drinking app when you can actually think big and solve real-world problems? So my lesson number 2, well, I'll get to the lesson number 2. These are just an examples of the companies that we started. So we had Mobile Optic is the company that has a mobile component that goes between the scope that the doctors use and the telephone so that you can send images to your students, to the fellow researchers and fellow doctors. Emerge Lab used virtual reality to teach people how to administer CPR, the first aid to victims. VFund is a great company started by ophthalmologists out of the university. It's an app on a tablet that can tell you if your infant has problems with visions. So again, big problems, big world problems. So my lesson number 2 for you is think big when you decide to start a company. Solve problems, fall in love with a problem, not with a solution, and then you can try different solutions until you find the right one. This is one of my favorite examples of a successful incubator. It was very first incubator in the United States. It started in the early 90s, and then it incubated many companies. It was called Ideal Lab and was run out of Los Angeles. So because they started so many companies and incubated so many companies over the years, they had 45 IPOs, for God's sake. They were able to step back and look at the data and distill the data into 5 most important elements that companies need to be successful. So the 5, no surprise, are ideas, team, business model, funding, and timing. Now, it will be a surprise to you to learn which of these 5 is the most important. It's timing. And we will talk about it at my talk later on today, why it's so important. But for the universities that are thinking how to help people start their ideas and turn them into companies, these 5 ingredients are really important. And what's most important is that if you have the right team, they can evaluate the right timing, they can create right business model, they can go and obtain funding. So finding that business person, that business unit, and marrying it to a researcher becomes a key. All right, this is another quick example how you can sort of strategize with your researchers and help them think less, how do I publish my idea and go to the conference, and more, what's the market size and who is my competition. At the University City Science Center, we had the proof of concept program that put together researchers with business advisors, scientific advisors, specialty clinics with IP lawyers and so forth, and basically help them pivot their thinking of less, OK, I'm still working on it in the lab, and more, let me think how I can commercialize it. It's been very successful. Every year, we collected many applications from 22 universities, distilled them to 10 projects, and out of these 10 projects, at the end, funded 3. And finally, there is a model from Manchester, University of Manchester, called MIMIT. It's their innovation closed loop, where, just like the gentleman from Enterprise Ireland said, it's a push versus pull. What they do here, they work with a centralized health system and hospitals to address what are the biggest problems that we have today, and then they go to universities to say, do you have a solution for those problems? So it's less of university pushing their innovation onto the marketplace. It's more of a marketplace coming to the university and saying, we need you to work on those solutions. And so my lesson number 3 here is, it does take a village to raise a child, but it absolutely takes an entire community to raise a startup. So I hope you will learn from these lessons and go turn your next idea into the company. Thank you so much.